Hey everyone, welcome to the Download Podcast. Tonight we're going to be talking about animated films from the 70s and 80s. On the more mature side, things that were more filmed for adults, not that they were necessarily had nudity in them, but some could. It's just they had more of an adult, more mature storytelling. And I we want to start with the 70s because we want to make this a series of actually going from 70s, 80s to 90s to 2000s and in current and talk about how the medium has progressed. But tonight, of course, I have my dad and Colin and Zombie with us.
Hey everybody.
So, Dad, I'll let you go into this because
I'm
you
old.
were
Is that what you're
well,
saying?
no, I'm not saying you're old, but you were at
Come
the
on, old
age
man.
when some of this stuff was coming out.
Hey, I'm in the
Yeah,
dinosaur era. Look at my avatar.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, but you're not Moses old.
I hope
Oh
to
yeah, no,
achieve that one
wait,
day.
wait a minute, wait a minute. Yes, you are. Dinosaurs were before Moses. Hey, I'm wrong. Senile old man. Okay, let's be clear, because there are a lot of animation that
Yes.
came out in these period in the early period, and a lot of them were because of the culture were aimed at small children. So, I mean, like the first one on the list is Aristocats, which has a little bit of adult to it, but I would never consider it a more mature.
No. And see, that's
No.
where this was one of the things that we did find. It was really hard to actually get a definitive list for the particular type of cartoons we're talking about because some of them were on there, some of them weren't. But if you were to look at like from the 70s, like the first one officially that we got that was more on the mature storytelling side would have been probably Fritz the Cat. I know that's not
Hmm.
where we want to start with this, but that's kind of the first in 1972. That would have been
Well,
more on the mature themed.
well, we had yeah, Fritz Cat, Shinbone Alley. We had a lot of borderline, like what was the Tarzan one called? Colin, you might remember it. Uh, Tarzane or whatever, because they got in trouble with Edgar Rice Burroughs' family
Yeah.
for using Tarzan. There were a lot of those,
Mhm.
but there were also movies based on books like
Yes.
The Animal Farm,
Hmm.
and Watership Down, and some of the other ones. And those I don't consider the medium as a cartoon, but the story is not in the same vein of a cartoon. It is basically an adaptation of a book to
Yes.
present it to people visually so they don't have to read it because some of those books are very complicated and long running. Um, so let's kind of settle at first. What kind of film do we want to talk about? Um, so that we go like I'm trying to look through this list. Um, and a lot of them I wouldn't consider adult,
No, and
or
that's
or
where
mature.
mhm. I mean, because the if you go to the Wikipedia one we pulled up, right? I mean, you got what Fritz the Cat. There was heavy traffic.
Hmm.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, we had Fritz, and then
Fantastic Planet.
but there was another one. What was the sequel to Fritz? The
oh,
life,
the nine
Nine
lives of
Lives of
Fritz
Fritz
the
the
Fritz.
Cat.
Cat. Yeah. Um, we had you can go, Zom. I mean, if you got something, I'm trying to think of a few of them.
I think Fritz the Cat is a great place to start because I can say from my earliest experience, Ralph Bakshi definitely a lot of his early work really started to elevate the bar as far as animated film goes because yeah, we still had Disney and a lot of those were still for the most part family friendly, but Bakshi's films really started to push that envelope and
Hmm.
make animated movies more than just, summed up fairy tales and whatnot. Now that doesn't mean that Disney didn't try to up the ante of sorts. I mean, I would throw Robin Hood in there
Yes.
as a film that tried to, go outside of what Disney was known for. But definitely Fritz the Cat is probably one of the earliest examples I recall where I just could not believe what I was watching as a kid.
Well, and you weren't supposed to watch it as a kid.
No.
Yeah. No.
Uh, Now, see, I would not consider Robin Hood. I would consider the the Disney did not make the jump, and we talked about this last once before, where until after Don Bluth left and
Hmm.
started making his movies,
Yeah.
and Disney because he was working on the Black Cauldron, which was up until that point was going to be a movie like nobody does in an animated movie that nobody who was a Disney fan would have ever seen or heard of. And because of the control and the arguments and everything else that were going on with it and the second guessing, Bluth left and he took a bunch of, I think it was like 12 of the animators with him and went and started his own studio. And they did Secret of Nim. And Secret of
Hmm.
Nim was so successful that Disney had to try to change, but they went to the extreme because Black Cauldron, which I love, but
Yeah.
was not something that people were prepared for. And I can imagine what it was like going to a theater and sitting there with your kid and the skeleton is rising from the grave, flesh dripping, ooze, like uh, a past version of Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
Um, they weren't ready for that. I mean, they weren't ready for Alien when it came out. So, I mean, can you imagine what it was like when it's something that we already know is really for kids? It took a long time for America to get out of that mindset of cartoons are for children. It went from cartoons are for children, cartoons are for advertisement, to then influences from outside of the US teaching us that they can be a viable medium to tell stories.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
but there was like I saw Fritz Cat when it came back to the theater. I saw what is Bakshi said? He called them they were anti-establishment films. They
Yes.
were
Yes.
um and so I mean you could even think of Felix the Cat, Betty Boop for their time were
Hmm.
at anti-establishment kind of cartoon telling. Um, but once you got to like not rock and roll, what was the one about the American pop, which was about all about American rock and roll and drugs and everything else and the history of that. And then there was a sequel to that. Um, but those Bakshi's films, I want to say Frazetta's films. Frazetta had a more of his eye was more artistic to match his artwork that he did. He was just trying to bring his artwork to life. But there were a lot of animators and a lot of underground studios that were doing stuff that were pushing the limit that we're not going to see or talk about in on like a website like this unless you go to the right one.
Correct. Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
and that's the thing about this too, is that like we started to get the experimentation of stuff back then in the 70s. I mean, you had because we jumped from what he did. Ralph Bakshi did Coonskin, and then there
yeah,
was the
yeah.
the Tarzoon, which was not him, but it was another studio. But that was Belgium and France. And then we got Wizards though.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Wizards was what 78,
77.
7. Yeah.
77? Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh man, I saw that in a theater. Um, it's
Yeah,
hard
you
to
got that
believe
in
that
Star
came.
Wars.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that came out at the same time Star
Star Wars.
Wars.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you remember what the buzz was like with those films?
um, they didn't get a lot of advertisement on television. And we didn't have internet back then, so it was really word of mouth that you would hear people talking about it.
Ah, the good old
And
days.
they would be in a theater because back then, remember, before we had R and all that other stuff, XX was not pornographic. It meant violence and sexual content and things like
Hmm.
that. There were a
Hmm.
lot of X films in theaters that weren't what we would consider X. That was triple X.
Yeah.
Right.
So you'd go see a movie and it'd have an X movie in it, and you finish your movie, you got some time to go. I wonder what that movie is. You go sneaking in, and then you could always get caught because you're like the only child sitting in the movie, and they'd walk up. You're not supposed to be in here. Oh, I'm sorry, my parents are. No, you're not supposed to be here. Where's your parents? They're. You're right. I don't need to be in here. They'd walk me out. So
Yeah.
you sometimes would see them like after, because even TV after it was after 11 o'clock before you started seeing things that were advertised for more for adults and that kind of stuff. Because there was a time frame on television between, say, 6:30 and 10:30,
Hmm.
which were, that is family time, and nobody was ever showing that. We only had three networks at the time anyway.
Yeah.
And you might have a local channel. You might have one of those where they're like college, or what were they called, where the city would give them a channel,
Public access.
a public access. Yes, thank you, Colin. And you might have stuff like that. I know that's where I saw a lot of stuff on horror movies
Yeah.
and things like that, and like, you know, science fiction and Ray Harryhausen, all that kind of stuff. They would talk about it. And we would get those Friday nights, Saturday nights, late, 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 starting about 2 o'clock in the morning horror shows.
Yeah.
So you would stay up way past your bedtime to watch those. And occasionally you would see a commercial on there, but they never showed anything pornographic or anything like that. But I remember, what was the Animal Olympics? When did that one come out?
Oh,
Where
I
they
was
were,
just looking at that too. Hold on.
I
I think that was 80. Hold on.
mean, that was one of the
80,
first
yeah, it
ones
was
I ever remember
1980s.
seeing actually
Yeah.
advertised outside of the other stuff.
Because, I mean, like, remember, you had Wizards, but you also had at that same time The Hobbit animated movie.
That came on
Hmm.
Yeah.
TV though. That was TV.
Yeah.
So there's a difference.
Hmm.
Um, so, and I
And
can
then,
remember when they did the Lord of the Rings, the first one.
yeah, and
Yep.
in
Now that,
78.
yeah, that got some airtime. That there were commercials for that, and they played upon the whole Tolkien and everything. And they actually toned down what you would normally see from Frazetta and Bakshi in that. Well, did Bakshi do some of the anime, or was it just all Frazetta? I don't remember.
For Bakshi directed it. It doesn't say who animated Lord of the Rings. But I
Because I
know
know,
that they did the animation for The Hobbit.
yeah, well,
Hmm.
um, that was Rankin and Bass in their studio. Rankin and Bass did The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Rankin and Bass did Return of the King. But
Oh yeah,
because
Bocce.
they had already done Lord of the Rings, they didn't want to go
Yeah.
back and retread it. I wish they had, because I would have loved to seen it in their style of animation. That way I don't have like The Hobbit and the Return of the King without having all of the material in between. And it
Hmm.
just doesn't feel right to put Lord of the Rings with those, because they're two different type of films.
Right. Because Lord of the Rings was the traditional with rotoscope.
Right.
Yes, which is something Boxy did a lot of in a lot of his
Mm.
stuff. There was a lot of rotoscoping. And then there was Flight of the Dragons, right, with John Ritter. I'm trying to remember when that one came out. That was the great thing back then. TV made movies for TV.
Yeah.
They, animated stuff. We had a lot of animated things that came out that way. I remember the Raggedy Ann and Andy movie, which was fantastic, very psychedelic in some ways. And the music was just borderline that pop, not pop, but like psychedelic rock,
Hmm.
especially that
Hmm.
ooze place where they went, where the guy was like this ooze monster, and he kept coming up and disappearing and melting, and he was all over. Man, I saw that in the theater, and then I rewatched it when it came on television, and then they turned it into a Saturday morning TV show for a while.
Yeah.
Flight of the Dragons was 82.
Me too. Okay.
Now, there's a word that often gets tossed around, psychedelic. Now, how would you describe the works of Bakshi and Bluth in a way that doesn't suggest they are psychedelics.
Bluth was never
And
psychedelic, ever. Bakshi used this color palette and flashing lights and this distorted proportions and quick actions and stuff that is what added to that psychedelic. They had these strobing effects in the film because they knew the people who were going to go watch their stuff were getting high, and that was
Mm.
part of the whole thing of watching it.
Mm-hmm.
That was not Don Bluth at all. Don Bluth was about telling stories and pure animation.
Yeah.
Um, Frazetta, like I said before, he was one a part, and there's so many other artists that I'm not getting, but Frazetta is he's just an artist, a fantasy artist, and what he wanted was to bring his art to life. Fire and Ice, we're gonna get to that in a little bit, is just friggin' fantastic. Um, I guess we should get started because I'm getting us sidetracked.
Well, I mean, because
no,
there's not much in the 70s stuff. I mean, there is, but it's not. There's a lot of Disney, a lot of other cartoons, but nothing that stands out as much as once we hit the 80s.
I'm going
there
through
is one that might fit in there. It was an animated short that was very adult content. Thank you, Mass Man.
Well, yeah, that was Lenny Bruce, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And we got those from Showtime when Showtime was first it started in Canada when they were
right.
making
The Canadian film
shorts.
board.
Yes. And then that moved over and Showtime picked it up and then HBO kind of mimicked them for a little bit. Well, we had things like Lupo the Butcher, we had The Cat Came Back, we had like you said Mass Man. Just there was the three hairs of Lucifer, just so many and a lot of them were play either funny little things that you would get like in the Crumb comics or the comics of the age, um, or they were retelling of fairy tales,
Yeah,
which was really fun. I really enjoyed some of those.
Hmm.
But I mean, Loop of the Butcher, man, is just transcends generations because every time it comes back out, a new generation discovers it.
Hmm.
Alice was, she was like, "You got to see this. This is really." And I heard his voice and I was like, "Yeah, that's Lupo the Butcher." She goes, "You know who this is? It's been around for a while." I don't know. But yeah, Mass. Thank you, Mass Man. Yeah, that pure Lenny Bruce, and all of it was animation to one of his sets. You know,
yeah, one of his bits. Yeah,
yeah, his
Hmm.
bits.
and it was again, it's comedy gold
Oh yeah, yeah,
because they went back and were able to add to his original bit by adding the other characters and stuff that he didn't do on top of it.
yeah.
Yeah, because he
You're
did.
you're gonna make me do the whole skit, don't you?
No, no, no,
Mm.
no, no. We're not going to get a copyright straight on that.
Yep.
No,
If you can find it and you've got the stomach for adult content, that's the one to go see. Because
it's
The Cat Came
hilarious.
Back is beautifully and fun, but Thank You, Mass Man is once you watch it,
All
you
right,
either hate it or you
all
love
right,
it.
all right, all right. And I'll tell you what you're gonna give me something. I'll tell you what I want. I want give me who's that? Tanta. You want Tanta? Yeah, I want Tonto the Indian. Yes. And I'm not gonna tell you why.
Now you need to watch it. I need to find it and watch
You
it.
need to watch it.
You need to find out. Yeah, find out what the payoff is.
Yep. And um, but there were so many of those that
Hmm.
were then pulled in as compilations, and then we saw them on VHS when VHS came out and was popular.
Yep.
Um, I'm looking at this 1974 Nine Lives of Fritz the Cat came out. Wow, Journey Back to Oz. I'm not gonna consider that.
That was
Yeah,
so
we're not
bad.
talking about any anime from Japan.
No, no,
Mm-mm.
no. Journey Back to Oz was not
No, I
Jeff.
know, I know. I'm just
No,
letting people know that are listening in that we're not talking about anything from.
this is America / North America.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's going to be a whole series. We're going to get a lot of stuff covered. No, I mean, while we're looking stuff up, I suppose there's another something we could lump in there since we're talking about the shorts. We
Hmm.
could
Yeah.
talk about the Schoolhouse Rock stuff
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that was
because
educational, you know.
yeah, I mean, and it didn't talk down to the kids.
No, it
It helped
didn't.
teach them stuff. And I've never found anybody who has bad-mouthed Schoolhouse Rock stuff. In fact, it's starting to come up as a meme now that we've now got the point beyond where Schoolhouse Rock can explain it to us and type of stuff. So
Yeah, we need to re-air the Bill. I'm only a Bill because a lot of people
yeah,
know what that
There's
is.
a
I don't
lot of
know.
educational things that people need to listen to now that they don't know.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
think that if they went back and just did a marathon, or if somebody was brave enough to put them all together and just do a live stream on YouTube, like those Godzilla movies are always doing, that could be fun.
My son
So
actually took a liking to Schoolhouse Rock.
Nice. All four of my kids saw it.
I've
So,
got the DVD in the other room
well,
when they
there
came
you
out
go.
with all of them. Yeah, Raggedy Ann and Andy. It was called the Musical Adventure. Came out in 1977. Just the same year that the original Rescuers
Came out.
came
Yep.
out. And you
Well,
know what?
77 was a real hot year.
I gotta say about the Rescuers. It was a it was a Disney cartoon, but it was different.
Yes.
And it was during that phase, right, when they were doing like 101 Dalmatians, which was about animal cruelty and all that other. So they were walking a fine line for a while. Um, I really loved the Rescuers. Um,
Yeah, because it had a couple of very deep messages for it. I mean, on the surface level, the kids loved it, but the older folks actually pulled something away from it too.
and
And when I go back and
that's yeah,
when
go
I've
ahead.
gone back and seen it, I'm like, okay, I saw this at this level with the kids, and I can go back and say, okay, I can see this level of it now. You know, it's one of those transitional movies for Disney where they were trying to find themselves again, and that one stuck the landing. I very much
And
believe that.
I remember,
Rescuers Down Under was way better, but it
yes,
stuck the
Yeah.
but
landing.
it was a generation different
Yes,
apart from that. Um, I rem- I I didn't like Animal Farm. I didn't want even have one to go into the theater and see it. So, but I did watch it when it came on television. It was one of the Thursday night or whatever. Remember how they would do two movies? One would be a short movie, and then it would be the longer movie. Um,
right.
but I did go and sneak in to see Watership Down, and I was not expecting what I saw, and it was like I stayed through it, but I I don't know if I enjoyed myself, but it did make me think about a lot of things. It was pretty shocking to me, and I had never read the book until I got into, till we could had opportunity in school. Um, and even, but even Charlotte's Web had had some of those more adult themes in it, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but then that was Don Bluth too, wasn't it?
No, not the first one.
Then,
I'm
all right,
trying
who
to think.
did that?
I'll go back to it. I just was looking at it a little while ago. Hold on, I got to figure out where it went.
Because that was technically another groundbreaking,
Yeah, and it
like
was
adaptation of a good book.
yeah, and it was a made-for-TV movie. It didn't go to
Yeah,
theaters until after it had been shown on television.
right. It was years later.
God, man, there's so much junk. Sorry. This list has just
There's a lot. That's what I'm
a
saying. It's
lot
not
of
a.
the just if it was animated, it's in this list. And that's why it doesn't
For
really
those of you
fit.
playing along at home, we'll put the lists in the chat for you later on.
Yeah, we should do that for all of these.
Scratch off your bingo cards.
Yep.
Oh no, no, no. 2026 killed the bingo card. Right out the window. Right around February. Gone. So, and I stand by that. Because this year it is the gift that keeps on giving.
of things you do not want.
Wow,
Mhm.
Scooby-Doo made this list.
You
Scooby-Doo
know,
goes to Hollywood, 1979. Oh, my thing closed now.
well, if it wasn't just the original series, I would say go into it more because the one thing that Scooby Doo had a lot of great stuff over the years, but when they came out with Zombie Island,
Well,
that
that
changed the game.
yeah, because
Where
that
the
was the first
monsters were real.
real. That's
Yeah,
what changed everything.
yeah, but that was what, 90s,
Hmm.
like early 90s.
Hmm.
Yeah, because a lot
So
of their
that
films were still kind of on the slapstick, goofy side. Scooby Doo and the Ghoul School, Reluctant Werewolf, those kinds of
the
like,
Batman crossovers
yeah, yeah.
where Batman's neck was conspicuously different.
Yeah, so Charlotte's Web came out in 1973. It does not. Charles Nicholas was the director. Um,
But it doesn't talk about the animation house or anything.
no, and we knew Henry Gibson was in it, Debbie Reynolds, Paul Lynde.
Paul Lynde,
Yeah,
he was great as the rat. Well,
the
I can't
rat.
remember the
Yep,
Yeah,
rat.
Templeton.
Templeton.
Hmm.
Templeton,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Hmm.
Absolutely. That was made for him.
Ah, Charlotte. That little nasally tone.
Yeah,
Tone of
now
his
I
voice.
want the eggs. I suppose I can do that for you.
That
That man was a legend. An
that
oddball, but a legend.
going, all the way back to Bye Bye Birdie. Yep, with Dick Van Dyke and what's her name? Uh,
Um, the one from the singing movie there,
what's it? The one who was like in love with Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley at the
oh,
same
Marilyn
time.
Monroe.
No, not Marilyn.
I'm
The
I'm thinking of somebody else entirely that I know it's not right. Julie Andrews or
oh, Julie Andrews was like the wholesome
yeah,
girl next door until she did
until she did that
SOB.
SOB. Yeah, that changed everything, and that
Yeah,
was awesome.
that was the year that Mary Poppins went topless and Superman lost his virginity.
Yep.
It sure was. Spoiler alert. That was a fun year.
Yeah. Um, no, gosh, she was. I used to be. She's a singer, dancer. She's been in everything. I can't remember her name. It'll pop to
Uh,
me in a minute. That's how it
would that
normally
be
works.
would that be like Liza Minnelli or Debbie Reynolds
That's who I
or
was thinking, Debbie Reynolds.
No, no, she has red hair. She
Lucille Ball?
they out no no they even she was so popular they made a Flintstone character out of her. Um,
Oh, I just saw pictures of her the other day. 'Cause some post there was some post about it, about how she had passed away or when she passed away. I've been seeing a lot of these old celebrity remembrance posts and stuff like that, and one of them was featuring her.
Hmm.
hold on, I got it.
I thought it was what's her name from the Honeymooners, but I was wrong.
Well, her name was Anne Margaret in the
And Margaret.
Flintstones. Yeah, but it's Anne Margrock in the Flintstones, but Anne
Well,
Margaret.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so we're kind of done with this list. I
That's what
think
I'm saying about the 70s. There's not, I mean, there's not a
there
whole
is,
lot.
but we don't have any references to
No,
look
Yeah,
at.
true.
there's no point of reference for it. It was the Wild West of animation, so
But we're starting to bridge that gap into the 80s where we've got these films that are either using different or groundbreaking animation styles, have a story to tell with a real message,
Yes.
had
right.
social
Hmm.
commentary. So
I mean,
again,
it was groundbreaking. It was the things that kind of defined what this type of storytelling was going to be going forward.
Yeah,
right,
it was a time when animation was not the sole proprietary ship of kids animation and toy marketing. Because
Yeah.
that's where it
Hmm.
started to come in was in the 70s. That's when it really got heavy into using anime as uh, ways
Marketing for
of
toys. Yeah.
marketing for and food and cereal
Yeah.
Yeah, and
and
everything. Yeah.
And,
everything else.
and of course, we're going to be touching on Hasbro now that we're getting into the 80s and their toy movie stuff.
Cobra.
Yep. G.I. Joe, Transformers, uh, even
uh,
things like Care Bears and Strawberry Shortcake and uh,
But there was at least one movie in '81 that captivated my dad's imagination for so long, and it's
Oh,
heavy metal.
yep, that's what I
oh,
was gonna say.
yeah,
yep.
buddy. I saw that both ways.
Heavy
Yeah.
metal.
I
You
saw
saw it
it.
with
I saw
without
it.
the little blurry line down the middle.
Well, yeah, I saw that with in a unsmoked um theater, and I saw it in a very foggy theater, and I can't tell you which way I enjoyed more. Um, Here was another one. Okay, so we're starting with the 80s now, and right
Yep.
off the bat, Animal Olympics came out in 1980. I was talking about that earlier.
Hmm.
Um, And that was another one that meant to have a theatrical release, but I don't remember it ever getting it. But I know it had like Billy Crystal, it had Harry Shearer, um, Gilda Radner, and a bunch of other like comedians that were
Common
just
veteran.
up and growing, at
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
time. Because when did Saturday Night Live start? I don't remember.
74, 75, somewhere right in there.
If somebody else wants to take us on the ride through 1980, pull up that list.
Well, I mean, I got the one list of the more adult themed one because I mean, you
Mhm.
got American pop in '81, you got heavy metal in '81, and then we jump to '82 and we get The Last Unicorn,
Well, there you go.
which is a
Rankin
fantastic
Bass.
movie. Hmm.
There's another, yeah, Rankin and Bass.
Hmm.
When was Secret of Nim?
Secret of Nim was. Let me look at the other list.
It was early 80s. I just don't remember specifics.
Yeah, Secret of Nim '82.
Yeah, because I saw it at the theater with your mom,
Hmm.
and then when they re-released at the theater for the anniversary, that's when I took y'all and showed it to Ember, and then when it finally came out, I bought it.
Yeah.
And I loved the fact that America did the soundtrack, and it had Christopher Lee. Uh, come on. I wanted to say, I almost said Lloyd Bridges, the son, Jeff Bridges. Um, but
Well, here's one that me and Ember enjoy a lot, and that is the Halloween tree.
yes, which is
Mm.
hard to find. But that was
'84,
that was a made for
made for
TV.
TV.
Yeah.
Mighty Mouse and the Great Space Chase.
Okay.
That was '82. You got Plague Dogs in '82.
Yeah, that was not something you take your kids to.
Mm,
It was
no.
pretty downer. Um
There we go.
Hey,
1975 was when Saturday Night Live premiered.
Saturday Night Live game. Okay.
So uh what was the last one we you said? It was one of
Plague
the
Dogs. We did Mighty Mouse.
oh, that made me think. There was a made for TV movie and it came out to theaters too, but I don't remember if it stayed very long. And it was called Pinocchio in Outer Space. And it took the premise of Pinocchio and took him into space to Mars to explore. And it was not a Disney. I don't remember who did it, but it had monsters and everything else. And I remember watching that, and it was like the it was a double feature, and it was like a after that it was like a Jerry Lewis movie, and I can't remember what Jerry Lewis movie it was, but I was more involved in the Pinocchio, and I was ready to leave after that because it just made me want to go and do that kind of stuff, pretend, play and do all that kind of junk. Um, but that's one that never gets talked about anymore. There are a lot of these lost animated movies that have just disappeared from our culture.
Hmm.
Um,
And
Just because
why
they're
do you think that
lost.
is? Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just simply because they're lost films now and maybe they just didn't save the negatives or the prints
No, you can
or
find it. You can actually go and look it up on YouTube, but they're different. Their grains different. You want to look and find one that's really looks good. And there are two,
Yeah.
and I can't remember where they are, but I looked them up, and one of them was cleaned up, but it was edited for TV, so all of the stuff wasn't there. And then the other
hmm
one was it's pristine. But then there were all these ones that were grainy, horrible. You could tell it was taken
Yeah.
off
Direct
like a
transfers.
VHS or it had been played way too many times.
Yeah.
Um,
right.
but I think they get lost because there were so many of these studios just pumping out stuff, and they either got they went out of business and their stuff was taken away if they owed money, be it went to a bank or went to somebody else, or and they didn't know how to do it. Some of them were stored in vaults in other countries because they didn't know what to do with them. And it
Some of them
was
got damaged too. I mean, like some of the fires and stuff back then.
well,
Like
yes,
like
if
the
it was a
Yeah.
Universal Fire had
if
a
it
lot
was
of
a
them.
studio film, if it was one
Hmm.
of the big studios. But there was one that was sending stuff off to Transylvania. There was a salt mine or something that they were storing films in, and it was the same place that Event Horizon, when they edited 22 minutes out of Event Horizon of the more horrible stuff, they always planned to maybe do something with it. They sent it over there to be, protected and stored. Well, it the salt and the air and everything that was in there, it damaged them, it destroyed them. So only bits and pieces of this stuff are left, and that's what's happened to some of these other cartoons. They're gone. They don't exist.
hmm
Or they're under an umbrella of like MGM or one of these other studios who Disney, and they're just locked up.
Yeah, they don't
So
want to move them.
nobody
Right.
they don't want to release them for one reason or another, or there's a rights problem and they don't want to have to pay anybody, and so they're just lost to us. And I think that the what is the government agency that takes our movies, our books, and all this other stuff and keeps them for
Oh,
prosperity.
the National Archives?
Archive
Yeah.
hmm
should have a whole division dedicated to film history and
Yeah.
animation history here in America because it's vast and we only glimpse the tiny bit of it
Yeah.
now.
And
Yeah.
they handpick what they want to keep and preserve.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It
Right.
goes through this whole process, like the Rock Hall of Fame, only
Right.
with only with morals.
And the reason why I asked that is because we all are familiar with censorship. We're all familiar with, films and programs and music being deemed controversial and things being locked up or, angry parents writing in wanting shows pulled, movies pulled. So I'm always curious as to why we don't have some form of it reserved or saved, and if it's due to public backlash or like you all were
Well, there
talking
is,
about.
there is, there is. Okay, there is a animators from Disney went off and made a X-rated fairy tales anime movie. Bland, by today's comparisons or even the
Right.
70s or 80s comparison. And it's been blocked. And it had major actors doing the voices in this film under pseudonyms and things.
hmm
But that thing got so locked up in courts and everything else, it'll never get re-released. And you can't even find anything on it online or maybe clips of it or static images from it, but you can't watch the movie anymore. So I think a lot of times that happens too.
Like
Um,
Song of the South.
well,
Yeah,
and that drives me nuts. That's a total different thing. We cannot hide from our past. And when you block something like that, which is a snapshot of history, you're doing a disservice for every generation. And it is a fine movie. It's a movie that matches the period it was from and what it
Hmm.
was intended to do. Um, and we've gone way too far in this censorship, this uh, I don't know what's the word to call it that would fit it and not cause somebody to get mad at me. But yeah, there's just lots of
over
movies
censorship.
that,
Revisionist history. I
yeah,
mean, if you
well, yes, and
Sensitivity.
there's a lot of films that are we can't see anymore because of that. And sometimes you watch something, you go, yeah, that didn't age very well.
yeah,
Right.
But but that
Like the
doesn't
Heckle and Jekyll cartoons.
yes. But it doesn't mean
No,
that it doesn't have a place in our history, and doesn't mean
right.
you should
It
not
needs
watch
a
it
footnote.
with a objective eyes. We can't just our opinions got to, oh, I don't like this because, it does this, it's racism or it's sexism or it's whatever, it's political. You know, what is it? Everything we're gonna watch is just this homogenized pudding that
Yeah,
has no meaning to it. I don't want that.
No,
Um,
no. And I recall, I don't know if it still happens, but when Disney Plus first started, they used to have disclaimers over certain programs where
oh
they would
yeah.
say this depicts,
yeah,
early
moment in
views.
time. Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah.
And for a while, I was kind of like, really? Do we have to say that? I mean, it should be obvious, but then again, common sense isn't common these days. So
True.
if it means that we get to archive and revisit these things, then I'm all for that little disclaimer, honestly. But
Yeah.
I've
I
always
mean,
wondered as we're progressing just how much we're also
regress.
regressing
Yeah,
because we're starting to move away from actually learning from these things and just
Exactly.
focus on all certain, what we feel and whatnot. Like,
If something is doesn't fit our current culture, it's still a learning moment. Parent
yes.
should if a parent has a problem with it, sit down and talk to your kids, watch it with them and explain why that was wrong. Use that as a way of educating. But we're in a society now where we want to revisionist history. We want to remove everything. We want to make everything, you know, uh, this is not the place or time for this, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And um, that's why some of this stuff won't go to a theater. If it has any kind of controversy with it, theaters won't touch it. They don't want it. They
Hmm.
don't want it in there because they know the audience, somebody in the audience is going, some Karen's going to get up and make a big stink about it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have to be in here to watch it. That's
No.
a great thing about freedom. You
Speak with
don't
your
have to be
wallet.
watch something. Well, no, don't speak with your wallet. Speak with your wallet means you force people
No,
not
but
to
that
make
but
things like that.
well, but
But
the
what
thing
I'm
is, if you
saying
don't
is,
want to, but if the thing is though, Dad, is that it still applies to this. If you don't like something, don't go being Karen. Just don't go see it. Don't spend your
right,
money on it. Go do something else.
Or
Allow people who want to actually be able to take part in something to see something for historical purposes or whatever. Allow them to do that. Turn it off. Yeah, exactly. Turn it off.
yeah, that's what I was
it's
going to say. You know,
that simple.
if you don't like the song, change channels. If you don't
Right.
like what you're watching, don't watch it. If you don't want to don't try to force your change or your need onto other people who don't feel the same way you
Hmm.
do. Because
Hmm.
freedom stops once it starts impeding on other people's freedom. And we've forgotten that. So, but I'm done with that politics stuff. I'm here to enjoy anime stuff.
We also forgot, what you touched upon was that um these films they they told us this information. They taught us these morals and lessons so brilliantly that sometimes we didn't even need our parents to sit there and make sense of it to us. Either because we just were that self-aware by then, or um, maybe we
No,
had
they didn't.
already experienced something like that already in our lives, like loss, like, a parent dying or something of that nature.
Kids have
And they didn't
always
talk
been
down to people. They
Kids
didn't
have
talk
all
down to
yeah,
us.
no.
No.
Kids have always been smarter than what parents give them credit for. You remember, we got kicked out of our houses to go play all day
That's
long
right.
and only be back when the sun went down. Well,
Well,
what do
some
you
of you.
think we were
Yeah.
doing? What do
Yeah.
you
Some of
think
you guys.
we
Some
were
of you.
doing?
Range, baby.
Well, what do you think we were doing? We were out in the world, the real world. We saw dangers, we saw everything. And we had to be smart and you had to learn to be street smart or you'd get eaten up by it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
kids know and understand more than parents believe, but it's our parental need to protect our children that sometimes gets in the way.
Yes, I would say so. I didn't have that luxury of being able to go play outside until the sun went down. I can say that without hyperbole. That wasn't me, unfortunately. So a lot of what I learned about from the world was reading and watching TV when I could. But I remember, and this is why Don Bluth's films are such an impact for me and why I praise him so much. I was sitting there taking in a lot of what these characters were going through, and it made sense to me. The visuals were just beautiful to look at, but it was the way that it presented these messages that just made them so universal. Like, for example, I've actually talked about these films with my son, and I showed him two distinct movies, Bambi, Land Before Time. Now
There we go.
we all know what happens in both of those. It happens to both main characters. But I showed him how you notice how Disney doesn't flat out say Bambi's mother is dead. You
Right.
know, the dad says your mother can't be with you anymore. Okay, well, why? Kid would probably question that. Whereas in Land Before Time, Littlefoot unfortunately witnesses his mother die
Mother's
in
died,
front of
yeah.
him. And she's trying to help him remember, you got to be strong. You got to remember what I taught you. Go find your family, that sort of thing. And he was heartbroken. And he looked at me and he says, "They let you guys watch this as kids?" I said, "Of course." And, younger than you, we would be in class and, we'd have movie day and we would watch these films. And I don't recall kids crying in my classrooms, but we knew what that pain felt like. Some of us had already experienced something like that already. So it was nothing new, but we could still relate to it because, like you all were mentioning, it didn't dumb down its message. It didn't talk to its viewers as if they were complete morons or sugarcoat anything. You could say it was in your face, but not like, oh, get your attention this way,
Yeah.
but it just presented things in a way that it should. And it
Hmm.
wasn't afraid to take that risk. It wasn't afraid to hurt someone's feelings, and fear that somebody was going to picket it the next day, which
Yeah,
is what I miss.
and see, one thing I loved about Land Before Time was the message of when we lose a family, there's always we can make another family. The people that we gather around us, the ones we trust, the ones we depend on, they become our family. It taught you that blood isn't always family. It's those we choose to be with.
Around. Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until later in the later films, like when they found the Lost Valley and his father, and because he's found his grandparents at the end of the
Right.
Yeah.
first one. So he had that mentorship and love from a familiar, place, but then he had his family of his friends and those because they were like siblings, like when they slept together and laid on top of each other and how they protected each other.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was just a great movie because it had real life situations in it, but it taught us how to overcome them and that we can overcome them. There was a strong message there that it, we're going to get hit with things that just feel so devastating in life that we want to give up. but we can't. We got to step up and we got to keep persevering. And there are going to be people who we meet along the way who are going to go on this journey with us.
Hmm.
They may not always stay with us, but we're going to meet new people, and that part of our journey ends and we go on to another. And I really love that message for my kids. I really loved everything that Bluth was doing in his storytelling, from Secret of Nim to there was The Land Before Time. He had some other ones I can't remember.
American Tail.
Well, yes,
Yeah,
American Tail.
Bible.
But
Who did
that's
who did
Lucas. I
Fern
mean,
Gully?
not Lucas. That's you got Spielberg behind you, kicking you in the behind all the way. With
Well,
that.
remember, Lucas and Spielberg had a hand in Land Before Time,
I know.
and
Yes.
people forget that.
Hmm.
There was a big rift between Lucas and Spielberg because of the T-Rex and how scary it was.
Yeah.
And
Which
it's
is why we got Chomper later.
Yep. But it's interesting looking at it from a retrospective of like after the fact, right? Because going to see that, we love that film. We had the puppets and everything that you could get at Pizza Hut and all that.
All the
But
stuffed animals.
Hmm.
I still have Littlefoot in one of the containers in the garage.
it was interesting how like as we got into teens, you'd have people going, "Oh man, this is a kids movie." I'm like, "Really? That movie's pretty damn dark. At least that first one,
Yeah.
not the second one or the other movies that followed, but that first movie
Yeah.
was really
That person
dark."
was dark.
And they
Yeah.
changed everything with those too, the softer palettes and
Hmm.
Yes.
brighter animation, whereas the original's dark and gloomy and
Yeah.
foreboding in a way. And even my son commented on that. He's like, "Why do these films just seem like they're PBS kinds of programs?" And I said, Because we're getting to that point, kiddo, where now people are really, really starting to want to censor and brighten things and
Things
make
up.
things,
Yeah.
everything's all happy and, not to even get into our sitcoms at that time, but
Yeah, we're the Prozac nation.
Yeah.
yeah.
Rainbows and lollipops.
Hmm.
One thing I noticed is that in Land Before Time and the first two sequels, before it really kind of got too kiddie, um, they use lighting and atmosphere to show moments of darkness and dread. Like
Oh
it
Hmm.
yeah,
wasn't all dark. Remember when he finds his grandparents, it lightens up,
it
the
lightens
sky
up.
cleared, you got the sunbeams coming down. That was to show he'd passed through a dark world because that
Yep.
journey they
Hmm.
made was pretty dark. Went into the swamp and the mountains and everything else. You know, that it's a visual cue that you don't even know you're seeing,
Yeah.
No,
but your mind registers it.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's something else that's kind of been lost in storytelling.
the
Now,
aesthetics, the mise en
yes.
scène.
So here's a movie that really uses that darkness and light too. So in '83 we got Fire and Ice, which is another Ralph
Sorry,
Bakshi film, but with the help of Frazetta. Who's
Frazetta.
a
Frazetta drove that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Talk about a movie that was just gorgeous, and it looked like it was because it was all hand drawn. It wasn't rotoscope, but there was
No,
moments
no,
where
no.
it looked.
There was
There
rotoscope.
was okay. That's probably why I remember it being like there's certain scenes where it's like, okay, this looks.
Well, and there was rotoscoping in heavy metal too.
Yes, yeah, we
Yeah.
know that.
So
Yeah.
the
Yeah, heavy metal absolutely suited the way they did it. They
Hmm.
jumped around styles, and it helped tell more story that way.
Yeah.
well, like we talked about, it was a more connected story originally, and
Yeah,
once they weren't be able to get a release on it, and all the countries were going, you need to edit this down, you got to take this out or that out, and the whole evolution sequence that
and
if you've
fragment.
bought one of the expanded editions, it's only the line art, but it's animated line art, and so you can see what was meant to happen. You could see that there was this more, instead of the disjointed storytelling we got, which worked because it felt more like a heavy metal magazine you were reading, because their stories were all over the place.
But yeah.
Which
Um,
it
Yeah,
was supposed to encapsulate.
Yes,
Hmm.
but when they originally were doing it, it was going to be a long story with segments that started at a beginning and told, and they were all interconnected. And then at
Hmm.
the end, we got the Tarna thing. Um, but to me, I like those. I like seeing that extra little bit that they cut out of these stuff. I love being a completist, and finding out and watching something. But I love actually when when they first come out, because sometimes what you're seeing is the true vision of the director and editor. Sometimes you're seeing a committee decision, which
Yeah.
kind of hurts
Yes.
the film. Um, you know, when Ridley Scott did Alien, he said that this is it. This is my perfect cut. When Snyder did Man of Steel, and he did V versus Superman versus Batman, those films were his. He was on television. He was talking to everybody. These are my films. These are my cuts. This is what I want. I don't want to do any direct cuts. I don't want to do that. And what happened with Superman V? They immediately, after it bombed, put out, edited back everything, and that made the story feel normal and not so disjointed, and re-released it to theater. And that one was a much better story than the one that they put out originally. So it's hit or miss sometimes with what the director wants. I mean, Lucas has never been happy with anything he's ever done. He always goes back and tries to re-edit and to
Yeah.
remake
Hmm.
it and improve upon it, which I think bleeds off into Spielberg, because Spielberg never wants to fix anything except E.T. He went in and did that horrible removing of weapons out of ET. And I wonder how much of that was Lucas kind of bleeding off on him. Um,
Well, so, but for Fire and Ice, talk about the fact that how like this was the closest we got to some kind of animated Conan style film,
oh,
other than
remember the characters from Fire and Ice were already pictures.
yes.
Like the Death Dealer was already
Hmm.
a picture. They may not have the names that they had in the movie, but they were characters that he had been drawing for years, and so they got together and created a cohesive story out of it. And it is one of the best of that era animated movies, and it's kind of how I always thought Conan should have been done. I love the live
Hmm.
action, but I was one of the people who liked Howard's use of monsters and magic, and how that Conan hated that. He didn't want to use magic weapons, and he hated anything that had to do with magic. He didn't trust it. Um, and then you had a lot of Lovecraftian kind of stuff going on there, because uh,
He
the
was friends with
he was friends with him,
H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft. And so when I went and saw the premiere, I got to go to the premiere with your mom, and it had 22 extra minutes. Most of it was sex, running, and camping. And I was like, and we got to the thing in the crypt scene, and I was like, yes. And when he kind of moved his hand, I was like, yeah, he's gonna stand up and they're gonna fight over the sword like they did in the story. And no, he got the sword. So every time I thought we were gonna get some kind of that in, it wasn't
Conan.
there, in
Yeah,
Conan. I was like, golly. And I think it would have been easier to do it if it had been done in an animated
he made it
style.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Colin, what
and
about you? What was your thoughts originally on Fire and Ice?
I don't remember too much. I honestly, I just it rings a bell, and there's a couple of images in my head, but I really it's been ages since I've seen it, so I really, I'm trying to process it as you guys are talking about it.
okay, so there was a Fire Nation and an Ice Nation, and they were at war. The Ice Nation was conquering and taking over lands left and right. It got to the Fire Nation, it couldn't go any further. The queen, who was a sorceress, she'd had a son who looked very much like Elric from the Elric
Okay.
books. And I
Yeah.
believe that's where they drew that inspiration from. And um, they he sends in his soldiers to go and kidnap the princess so she can force her son to marry him and create an alliance, because she thought they would be greater together than apart. And it's about a young barbarian, you know, uh, their village kind of looks like a Norse village, so they're kind of mixing their genres, and his whole people get wiped out, and he stumbles upon her, rescues her, and they fall in love and all this other stuff. And your typical science fantasy. So, and but I liked how it drew from Robert E. Howard's stuff. Um, yeah, Conan, Robert E. Howard, yeah. Um, like the pickets, the swamp dwelling guys who were running around and cannibals and all this other stuff. They were in there. There were sorcery elements, like the witch who, when she dies, comes back to life as a bone, and he orders her to tell him what was going on. It was just well done. Riding dragons, bats, and just gorgeous, gorgeous film.
Okay, yeah. I'm looking at stuff for it now. Found it on IMDb. Yeah, okay.
I know you've watched it because I own it. I mean, I know we've
Yeah.
watched it.
Yeah, because the next movie we're going to talk about was a big one in our house. Came out the same year,
Yep,
and that is Rock and Rule.
yep.
Yeah. 1983.
What can go wrong? I forget. The guy who did the voice for the guy who starred in Puppet Master was the voice of the lead singer. Um, Deborah Harry was the voice
Well,
of
didn't
the.
Robin Zander do the singing voice though?
Yeah,
In Cheap
well,
Trick?
and Cheap Trick. Oh, Cheap Trick were in it. Their characters, most of the characters were in it. They actually combined the two singers into one kind of element, but the singing voice was done by them, but not the actor's voice. And then you had Iggy Pop and
Lou Reed.
Lou Reed,
Yep.
and man, the music alone in that was fantastic. And it wasn't, they borrowed music from somebody else. They wrote music, songs for the
For
movie
that.
that then went on to be on an album. And the only song that never made it to the album is the main theme of the whole picture. And I was like, how can this be? I want to hear this song. So the only way to listen to it is if you have that film, or if you find a video of the ending of the movie where she sings it, where Deborah Harry sings it. Um, and that movie, and then Highlander did the same thing with New York, New York. They did the music for the movie. They did a partial song that's in the movie, but never made it to the album or anything else. Did we
Going
lose?
through screen grabs of Fire and Ice.
Jesse, you there? He might have to step away.
All right, because I want to hear what he thinks about it.
Yeah, yeah, both those movies. So we can take a moment.
Yeah, sorry about that. I did have to step away for a moment.
Well, that's okay. Did you get to hear anything of what we said?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And the unfortunate thing for me as a kid was when I got to see heavy metal, one, I wasn't too familiar with the magazine at the time. I had only seen it in a few of the comic book shops that I used to go to, but I never really got to actually read the magazine itself. And
Hmm.
then at the time, I also didn't know who a lot of these bands were. Like I could identify the music, but could you ask me if I could identify who they were back then? Absolutely not. Because I as a kid I was very like specific on who I listened to. So now when I look back on it, oh yeah, I could easily point out who Cheap Trick is, who Debbie Harry is, all of that. But as a kid, I didn't really I didn't really get pulled in by that, but I will say that I was just blown away by the animation style. Um, the stories I didn't get firsthand when I watched them because again, I was more about the gimmick, the loud and uh things that probably would have interested the kid version of me. Nowadays, when I go back and watch it, I love it. There's just so much there that made me want to gravitate towards the magazine, but as a kid I didn't have that luxury at that time. And it was my uncle who actually had the VHS tape, and it's like a real nice chrome box, like real well polished, reflective, everything. So even the box art is amazing to look at. Reminds me of the Silverhawks toys I had as a kid. And just, yeah, we used to watch that a lot on the weekends. We'd watch that. We'd watch an anime film in addition to that. Um, but yeah, I just loved the sci-fi fantasy element of it. And because I'm sure that my family already had an issue with the anime I was watching, anything that had erotica in it, I'm sure they're gonna like, no, turn it off, look away, that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I think it's one of those influential films that you either know it or you don't, and if you don't, you just get mesmerized by everything. I mean, there's even that South Park episode with Kenny.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The space that from Stern.
right, exactly. And even as I was watching that, and my kid brother's like, this is different for South Park. I said, you don't even know where this is from, dude. You've gotta watch
Don't even
heavy
know the half of
metal.
it.
Hmm. But
So what about we talked about Rock and Rule and we talked about Fire and Ice. Did you ever get a chance to see any of those?
Fire and Ice I saw once. And it was one of those films where I, again, because I raised the notion of censorship, if that was just not made available in general, because I don't recall ever being able to find that in video stores. I could never like go to a Blockbuster and pick it up or anything like that. So it was one of those things where I had to get lucky enough to borrow a friend's recorded copy, or if I'm lucky that it came up on, cable somehow, probably late at night. But because I love Conan. Um, I loved the art style of that. I was really hoping that it was going to give us uh a show with those components. And I know a lot of uh like Marvel Comics staff worked on that. And I think the creator of Aeon Flux,
I don't, yeah, maybe.
Uh,
I want
maybe, yeah, because I know the artist was Japanese, but the story was
Well,
American.
some of it is
Yeah.
influenced by
Well, for Influx, I was talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, because I for Fire and Ice I don't see that look.
no,
Uh,
thank goodness, because it would have made me sick.
because yeah, Eon Flux was
Oh my God, that would have been so
uh,
bad.
Liquid Television. Everybody had an
Yes.
education watching Liquid Television, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it took a while to get used to that animation style. Because I was like, what? They look like taffy. So they look like somebody
Yes.
put them on a taffy puller and they
They're
just let,
very anorexic looking.
yeah.
Awful. I mean, we loved it, but it was still awful. Ugh. Oh, it was so bad too because like you'd watch it every one of that first season she died. It
Almost
wasn't until
every
like
episode.
it wasn't
Yeah.
until like the second season or whatever that you actually got storylines and what's going on because it's like, all
Well,
right,
at
here's
the
the
time
situation and
when it came out, they were just shorts. They were never meant to be this interconnected
yeah,
Hmm.
universe.
universe.
Um, and then what about
Oh yeah, rock and roll. Because I
Rock and
know
Roll?
I so that was the thing. I what 2 or 3 years ago, Zombie. I put on rock and roll and
Legend of
The Star Chasers, The Legend of Orin
yeah.
in
Hmm.
Discord. And I know you would watch both of those, so at least I wasn't alone showing everybody.
Right, right. See, that one is I have to revisit that one a lot, because again, at the time as a kid, I wasn't into a lot of things that had to do with um like a rock and roll focus. Nowadays I can appreciate that. And of course I love post-apocalyptic stories. So
Hmm.
um but again, these were movies I did not get to see until I got older. And well, at least these ones, heavy metal I saw as a kid and again loved it. I didn't get to see these until later, and I got the internet honestly because of that. But um,
That was great about the cable back then, and
hmm
some of the stuff that they would air.
oh yeah, and you had to wait late night for a lot of the better things to.
Hmm.
We're not just talking adult films here, people, not the Spice Channel stuff. No. You
No,
had to it was like the closest thing I can equivocate to that would be like when we had two versions of Toonami. You had the censored one in the evening, and then
evening,
at
yeah,
midnight you got the
yeah,
full blown unedited. Yeah.
yeah.
Adult Swim.
Well, that's funny that you say that because I remember Cinemax, Skinemax,
Skinamax.
when it came out, that we didn't have it on our package, but occasionally it would, if you were
It'd be
flipping through
free.
channels, and it would be free. It just all of a sudden appear, and then so would boobs. And you were like turning the sound down so my dad didn't hear it. What are you watching? Nothing.
Nothing.
And then it would always go out the minute it got good. I used to think that was that's how they were advertising. They weren't trying to entice people to buy it. They would give you a glimpse for free. And
Hmm.
then do you remember, Colin, when we were watching one of those channels and it was on like 26 or one of the ones where they showed horror movies, and
Yeah,
somebody put on he quit, but he had pre-programmed the horror movies, and he put in a softcore porn in one of it, and then the
yes.
network and parents blew a gasket, and I could just see, moms and their kids are sitting there watching a horror movie. Oh, you watch? Okay, you want some popcorn? You want some? Go? No, we're fine, mom. And then all of a sudden, you know, softcore porn pops up. And mom, what is this? But there was that one, and then one of the
Hmm.
other one, which is Channel 20. They did a late night one, and they were doing Frankenstein's daughter, and it was a Western where she was making uh, a new version of Frankenstein. And she, this cowboy got killed and she did everything. And I know there's an edited TV version, but then there's a version that probably was mistakenly put in, and it was full frontal nudity. And so we're watching it, me and my brother, and we're just like, this is getting stupid. And all of a sudden that popped up, and we were like, whoa, this movie ain't so stupid anymore. And then we kept watching it because it was really a dumb movie. Just to see if it would happen again, and it never did. It was just one shot in the film. But there was a bunch of gore, like when they got killed and stuff. But I was like, yep, they put in the wrong film.
So if
Yeah, unedited version.
when Merc is watching this, so what happened was the plot just showed up. The plot of the movie showed up.
So,
They made
so
reference to that in Gremlins 2 when they're having that fourth wall break when they're at the theater and they're watching the film, and then there's that random movie that gets spliced in and the outraged parent comes out complaining about
complaining
that.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course Fight Club, Tyler Durden did that.
That,
He'd
yeah.
always splice in a clippers too.
Hmm.
But that was during the Wild West days of cable and stuff, and like access channels and things like that.
Yeah.
You
I
would
mean,
you would just get a talking to if you're the guy working the thing. Hey, you can't do that
no,
again.
they when the
Right.
So you get fired.
when the other one did, he had been fired, and
Oh,
he had set up already pre-programmed everything. The tapes were all on a timer and everything because they were late night, so there was really nobody in the studio. And so while that was going on, there was nobody to shut it off. And so there was a big to do about it. And but it's just like I remember first time we moved to Houston, and we set up everything, got the TV on, got everything hooked up, and Benny Hill came on PBS, and there was nudity. These
hmm.
women were
Yeah.
running, and I was like looking around. My dad was cooking food, my brothers were in the other room, and I was just like, and I was like, and I was quiet. I was like, what in the world? My whole world was like, and then my dad turns around, he goes, "What are you watching?" And I said, "It's called Benny Hill." I didn't even know who Benny Hill was. I had seen him in movies before. He was in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. He was in those amazing men in their flying machine.
Contraptions.
No, machines. It was the plane race and everything.
Oh, okay.
Had Stuart Whitman. He was the guy who controlled the airport and the fire department for when the planes crash. And this is like early airplanes. And it was kind of like a live action of the cartoon, those wacky racers, but the ones
Oh, okay. Yeah.
where they flew the planes. It's not
Hmm.
the race ones. Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna love living here.
So
Well, hold on. So we did
yeah,
we did Rock and Roll. Did we do Fire and Ice?
we did Fire and
Yes.
Yeah, we
Ice.
did Fire and Ice.
All
Okay,
right.
so I just want to make sure everybody
I
got
Yeah,
that.
found it on Amazon.
to purchase, right? Or to watch.
Yep. Well, the DVD set
Oh,
for
okay.
Fire and Ice. I put it in the link for the Facebook thing.
Okay. I know it's free to watch on one of the channel. I think maybe Tubi.
Probably.
So it
Tubi's been
kind
like the hero lately.
oh yeah, it has been. But it's kind of been it so we go from 83
Well,
and
wasn't Oren around the same time?
80 that is
What?
87.
80. Okay, I thought it was like
No,
85.
85. It's 85,
Okay,
so we're getting
okay.
there, we're getting close. But we jump from that to like the next movie that's like because there was the Adventures of Mark Twain, there was the Bigfoot and the Muscle Machine, but then there's the Black Cauldron, and then we
Okay.
got the Brave Frog's Greatest Adventure, He-Man and She-Ra Christmas Special, The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, the little
That was the live action, right?
yeah no that was the CGI.
Okay.
Then there's the little troll princess or little prince. I'm sorry, little prince. Then it's the Rainbow Bright and the Star Stealer
Yeah.
movie. But then and then you got the Secret of the Sword, which is the He-Man movie.
Yeah.
Then it's Star Chasers, The Legend of Warren, 85, which is I love this movie. I've always loved it. But I know most people's complaint is it's too much it's Star Wars.
It's Star Wars. It's straight
Hmm.
up Star Wars
Yeah.
with a more adult Star Wars.
So good though. It's got great characters. I mean,
Like I would have preferred her to C3PO any day.
I mean, technically, this is the precursor to Titan AE. I mean, you think
In a
about,
way, it feels like a
yeah.
precursor. Yes. Um,
So, what are y'all's thoughts on that film outside of what we just talked about?
so let me. I got. You've seen these movies, so you know what is in Star Chaser. You know the scene I'm going to talk about, but Judge Dredd has a very similar
Yes,
scene and the same archetype of the family.
the
And I was
mechanical,
like,
the
yeah,
hybrid,
the ones who steal
hillbillies.
parts off of other people. I
Hmm.
was like, I wonder if they borrowed from the Orin because that came out first.
Oh, it did.
It
Well,
did.
but did it come out before
Now I don't know about the
the
comic.
comic?
I don't know about the comic, but the comic could have still been, uh, borrowing from it, or they could have borrowed from the comic.
Right. Colin, do you remember anything about it?
I'm
Look
I'm
at that,
looking
right?
it up. I don't remember this one at all.
What about
I
you,
don't think I
Zombie?
ever saw this one, which
I
is odd
remember.
to me because I know you would have shown it to me, Vince.
Yep, and I've had it a long time. We went and saw it.
Oop.
I went and saw it in the theater first, and then I was like, uh, bought it whenever I could. Um, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
Oh,
you
no
off.
Just
worries.
looking at it, it looks like a cross between Star Wars and Masters of the Universe.
In a way,
In a
yes,
way, yeah.
the whole sword part of it, yes.
Hmm.
I mean, because the Star Chaser: The Legend of Orion in 3D, the cover looks just, I don't know. That is all over the place.
And the idea in the movie is repurposed in the new He-Man movie. Because remember,
Okay.
once the blade gets destroyed,
The power's within him, not
him,
never in the
yep,
sword
Yep.
itself.
yep.
Yeah. Um,
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
But
but
I
you know
was
what
more
the
talking about
and
as
you
far
know
as
the
I can
sad thing
Star
is, it's
Chaser.
like Kathleen Kennedy and the rest of the Star Wars people that ruined Star Wars at Disney, they could have watched this movie and just adapted it into a Star Wars film, and we've been okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of Jaws documentaries and stuff for because we got an anniversary coming up for it. And every time I see her at she's in the background because she's been with Steven for forever. And I just find myself growling like a dog. It's like, do I really hate her that much? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so just looking at the screen grabs of it here, it actually could be paired up with Fire and Ice
Oh yeah.
because the style is very similar.
Yes,
And
and that
while I was looking at Fire and Ice earlier, it also reminded me of like Thunder the Barbarian and Herculoids.
I could see Herculoids. Thunder the Barbarian was supposed to be a knockoff of Conan
I
without the.
know, but the style and the some of the characters and stuff like that was reminiscent of those two cartoons for me as well. But yet this one, the Star Chaser, that absolutely could pair up with Fire and Ice as a double feature.
You know
Just
what's the
looking at the styles.
Yeah, well, it's the animation style.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I got to say something. Here's a difference. Herculoids came out at a time when animation showed people getting killed. The bad guys got killed. They got destroyed sometimes by their own weapon. Sometimes Brock, what was the dragon? Um, and then the Tundra, they would shoot those fire explosives and they would
Yeah.
destroy it showed there was a consequence for their action. You got to Thundar Barbarian, there was none of that. He didn't
No.
even hit anybody. He'd pull his sword and punch him. And I was like, what you could have just kept the sword in your pants, you
You
know,
pulling a He-Man? No.
so
Today, kids.
Today, kids, I did not have to hurt Skeletor with my sword. I was able to punch his ass out.
I used
Right.
words.
no, and if you're gonna punch Skeletor, make his jaw go sideways and him having to fix it
Yeah.
or
Ah.
something. Show the
Ah. And then he has
like
to
Like
like fix it.
like Daffy Duck.
Well, yeah, or Davy Duck, or
Yeah.
every time I see something like that, I think back to Army of Darkness, where the head spins when he hits him. It's,
Oh.
Hmm.
Um,
like, okay, I'm sorry, distracted us again.
no, it's okay. It's okay. Hey, for people that have watched this long, I mean, we're already at 152 episodes. They know.
Yeah.
They know.
Okay, so
Um,
I'm looking at the lady robot here.
mhm.
She looks like a cross between the lady robot in Metropolis and Jocasta from the Avengers comic books.
In a way, yes, she was
You can see it.
in the vein. There were a lot of characters like that in heavy metal, a lot of
Hmm.
fembots, and so that was kind of that style I think they were going for that. Um,
Now we have fembots.
yes,
Yeah.
that
And now that I'm looking at her one more time here, I wonder if Mel Brooks ever saw this
for
Dot.
because the 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 female the nanny robot there
Dot
in
matrix.
Spaceballs.
she still looked like Joan Rivers. I don't care what
Yeah,
they did to her.
yeah, but I'm looking at the overall design
Yeah,
where the legs actually look like, you know, pull up
like
super high boots or something.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I'm serious, Colin. What you need to do is you need to watch this with your boys and just sit down, watch it. It's so good.
My
I
son
mean,
would probably get terrified, especially with all the cyborg hybrids.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah, those
my
visors look like the Cylons and Cyclops had a baby.
that's what I liked about it though, because you didn't see a lot of that in film it yet. You
Mm-mm.
know, to
Hmm.
where, oh wow, he's not even a human, he's a cyborg. Yeah, I mean
Right.
that was just,
Spoilers. Spoilers for people who haven't watched this. For
how long has it been?
since '85.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
there's no such for
I
no,
know, I know, I know.
over a 20-year period. That's where I cut off. If you
Here's
ain't
a
watched it in 20 years.
here's a hot take. So as a kid, I could never get my mediums separated. I definitely saw the Star Wars here. Um, as a fan of Robotech or Macross, and what's the other one? Star Blazers,
Yeah.
was one that I would watch and often get confused because anime was not even anime to me. It was just like, oh, a different cartoon, Voltron, all of those. Um, I wonder if, and the only reason I'm trying to even put these two together is because I remember being fascinated with this concept early on, but then lost interest entirely. The New Adventures of He-Man had that sci-fi element, and I often wondered if that is what they were trying to replicate from Star Chaser. I mean, obviously Star Chaser does it way better, but
Oh, man,
I
that I think that they were just trying to do something different and get away because we'd had Thundercats, we'd had He-Man, we'd had all this stuff, and the formula was kind of getting old. And so
mhm.
they wanted to bring something that had you traveling in space, not just on one planet. You could have different adventures based on the planet you go to and all. They even changed how the magic worked and they
mhm.
changed everything
Yes.
about the show. The only thing in it had He-Man in name. You know, it-
And Skeletor.
they-
He-Man and Skeletor, they're the only
well, they had
two.
That's
Skeletor,
it.
but they were
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
but they were mutants and all this other stuff, which mutants were what was borrowed from the Thundercats. Um, and it
Well,
just didn't
remember,
go anywhere.
it was '89. '89 was when New Adventures of He-Man came out.
Hmm.
So I mean, you got like 4 years later. I mean, yeah, so 4 years earlier we have Star Chasers. So yeah, definitely there could have been some influences by it. But I don't know. I enjoyed the cartoon. At least I remember enjoying it. We enjoyed the figures.
Well, yeah, because I used them to make other figures.
Yeah.
They were great base figures for creating things. Um, that's where I used one of those to create my very first intelligent Hulk and all those other ones.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, you used all my old figures for it, and then the ones you bought
yeah,
extra
that
on
would buy.
clearance.
When I found them in clearance, I was buying them.
I will
Because
say
all the go ahead.
I was just gonna say I still have my power sword from that time frame, but I
They
just not like that, not like how I used to collect Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
like the little green one from the New Adventures or the classic one. Are you talking about?
The New Adventures one that lit
Yeah.
up and had all like 15 sound effects on it because I saw that commercial as a kid and I had to get that sword, but I was still in that mindset that you weren't cool or you couldn't be the leader unless you had the sword. It didn't matter what your character was because everybody had to have the sword, the lightsaber, all that stuff.
So at the same time that that came out, we had like what were the ones with the holograms on their chest
Uh,
and on their
Visionaries
shield, the
Visionaries.
visionary, and they all had that same
loved it.
team up feel and the look. The animation was all very similar, and there was a ton of that coming out at the time. Um, so I believe they were just all feeding off of each other, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
So right after this is one that became very popular with my age, and it got a sequel, and that is Fievel, the first American Tail.
Yeah.
it got it got three of them.
Two, only
Was there
two.
was there a third one?
It's only
Okay,
Five Will Goes
there
West, American Tail, and Five Will Goes West is
American
the only
Table,
two.
Five Goes
and
West.
okay, and what about Wiley Burp? Oh, that was why Five Goes West. Okay, I thought there were three
There's only two.
I remember two.
because the
There could
first
have been a
one
third.
took place in New York,
Yep.
and
Hmm.
the
Yeah,
second one,
took
yeah,
place in the Wild
okay,
West.
in the Wild West. Yeah, never mind. Because I was just thinking of when she became the saloon girl, and I was thinking
It's
that
it's
was in.
because it's because even though we love Five Will Goes West more, that movie feels disjointed because it's like there's two
Yes.
movies in that one movie,
Hmm.
and that's probably why, honestly.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
And to be honest,
No.
I cared more about the Pizza Hut tie-in at that time than I did
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
actual film because I knew my mom wasn't going to take me to that. I was a sucker for westerns as a kid, and um after watching the first one and it damn near, damaging my family who was watching it, me, I'm just like, what are y'all crying about? I wanted to see the sequel, and as a kid at that time, everybody was talking about it. Oh, you got to go see American Tail and all that. And I'm seeing the pizza commercials. I'm like, I care more about that than I do the movie right now.
uh,
But
Dom DeLuise, man, is the cat. The Jimmy Stewart is Wiley Burp, the old Western
Hmm.
hmm
sheriff. Just I loved everything about it because I was a big Western kid. I
yeah.
grew up watching Westerns, and so that was like some of my heroes. And I we saw it in the theaters, and when she grabbing, oh my, she was when she would grab the cat, what she would say so loudly and repeatedly, I would bust up laughing. And you remember what she said, right? Okay. And
Yes.
I know the parents were like, look at me. And I was like, I'm sorry, he said it.
Well endowed woman saying things that are
Yeah. I
Eh,
was
made
like,
for meant
but
for
I
meant for
remember
adults.
at that time, those weren't bad words.
No, they weren't.
No, it
yes.
They
wasn't.
weren't
We've
associated
added
back then.
those connotations later
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah. It
It
was
was,
like a Mae West type of thing.
yes, it was very
hmm
much a Mae West. But and then
Um,
John Cleese is the villain. God, man, yeah.
let's see. So in it, it's like we have, and this is just going off the cartoons that were released movie wise. Barbie and the Rockers, Out of This World, Care Bear movie to The Next Generation, which had the Care Bear cousins, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. The Bone of Scone, which was the Found Puppies movie, which is fantastic.
Oh
Actually,
Uh,
yeah.
that's not even on here, which is crazy. We see The Cosmic Eye, Fluffy Dog, GoBots, Battle of the Rock Lords, which
Rock
is
Lords.
oh man.
uh,
There was a tie-in, which was it Pizza Hut or Burger King? One of them had them where you could get the 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 transformable figures
It
with
was
you.
probably Burger King, if not maybe McDonald's even.
I think it
I
was
don't
McDonald's.
was it? I just don't remember it being a McDonald's.
The Great Heap, which is a Star Wars droid movie or an TV movie.
Yeah.
Now, this one was good. This was one of the ones that was like, it's been a while since we had gotten a good Disney film at the time, but 86 was The Great Mouse Detective.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Vincent Price, man.
Mm.
Yes. Is Radigan. Oh yeah.
hmm
Yep.
Yeah, that matter of fact, that was for a long time my favorite because I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan.
Because like
And
Right.
I remember us watching it, but I don't think we really remember watching it at that time because I would have been 5, but my sister would have been even younger too.
you know.
But like when they re-released it in the 90s.
Now I saw it in the theaters because it had the first computer generated because of the clockwork gears were all computer generated.
Hmm.
But y'all really saw it when we bought it when it came out on the Disney in the white box, the white
Yeah.
box. Um
There's the Inhumanoids movie.
Yes.
There's Sports Goofy and Soccer Mania, which seems to be something that could be released today.
hmm
Yahoo!
Yeah.
The My Little Pony, the movie.
Yep.
Yep, we went and saw that. That was
Now
even
I'm gonna say this because it was released here, but Megazone 2-3 as the Robotech movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Not what I thought you were gonna mention, but okay.
But then in 86, Transformers the movie,
Hmm.
which, like I still say, that movie holds up today,
Oh
animation wise.
yes.
Great
And
soundtrack.
thank you
Especially
for
since
hosting that.
Yes, yes,
since
you're welcome. You're welcome.
especially since they digitally remastered it for one of the anniversaries.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
really looks good because I've had seen it before, like when it was running on one of the other channels, and it had that kind of grainy, overused look. And then last time I
Yeah.
saw it, it was so sharp and clean. It was great.
So at this point, we have brand names, well-known companies, all trying to be edgier
Hmm.
or maybe go in a direction that they wouldn't have attempted before. So now we're also getting the product placements and all the other tie-ins and such. Um,
But some of that wasn't because they were trying to be edgier, because they didn't really know how connected fans were to some of these characters.
oh
They were
yeah,
just trying to kill people off so they could introduce some new toy lines.
right.
Especially Transformers and GI Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, it wasn't always because they were trying to change. Necessity was driving it. They were trying to
Right.
sell more toys. Uh,
Right. And they admit that nowadays, but back then they probably
oh
didn't.
no, no.
Uh,
Well, I gotta admit, the guys at Sunbrow who did and Hasbro who did the first Transformers, they came out in magazines and talked about it. Because there was such a pushback on it by parents saying, "How could you do this? My kid is traumatized," all this other stuff. And they were like, we didn't think about it. We didn't realize it was going to have this kind of impact, you
Hmm.
know,
mhm.
and it changed their way of thinking about what their product was because they
Yeah.
knew that these people were in love with these characters and some of them had grown up with them. So they kind of preserve them. That's the whole reason we got Prime back.
Right. And going back to what you said earlier, Vince, about how speaking with our wallets would definitely have made an impact. I find it hard to believe that no one really believed or was unaware of how much of a central figure or pop culture icon Optimus Prime was for them to do what they do in that film, because when
Hmm.
you've got this successful toy line and it's burning holes in parents' wallets or breaking our piggy banks because we're saving up our allowances, for these figures. I grew up loving both GoBots and Transformers. GoBots was more available to me because of my budget and product availability, but I loved them both.
GoBots
um,
were the poor cousins of the Transformers.
yes.
That's
It
kind of
was
what
the
I
team
told.
of
That's what
Transformers.
Right.
I told Vince. He was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, they're part of the Transformers."
And the
Optimus
funny
Prime's
thing
cousin.
The funny thing is, oh yeah, I could tell. I told my son about Stax from GoBots. I was like, oh yeah, that's Prime's cousin from the other side of the tracks.
Yeah.
He collects Cybertron money. Uh,
Yeah.
he likes the simplicity of GoBots, and although he likes certain characters from Transformers, he's like, I couldn't sit there and fidget with a toy for 30 minutes before I could figure out, okay, here's the robot mode and now here's the vehicle mode. So he kind of gravitates
The
towards
simplicity.
GoBots.
So
Yeah, the
you now
simplicity.
what you say, okay, you said they don't see the audience. They don't even treat the cartoons as it's just a commercial. They look at sales and they look at spreadsheets. And at the time, they were wanting to move out old product and bring in new product. They
Right.
don't
Mhm.
think about that because they don't think of it as a medium for storytelling.
Nope.
It's just a friggin' commercial.
Just a commodity.
And so
Commodity, yeah.
what's funny is how products like um, the GoBots and some of the other less technical transforming figures bled into Hasbro because they started taking away the complexity out of some of those figures for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to the Pretenders, which were humans with robots in them, or the ones that you just flipped and they all they did was stand up and they were a transformer. Um,
Yep.
and they learned that lesson because, like you were saying, people spoke with their pocketbooks. Their sales drastically dropped, and they had to immediately retool to go back to what they did right. Um, and so it's amazing how for a long time what we got here in the US, not like in other countries, were commercials only to the manufacturers. To us, they were stories we wanted to see told, you
Hmm.
know.
Yes. I would agree to that.
And it took them longer to learn that than we did. The consumers knew, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, and I could have told them, man, just soap operas have been around since dinosaurs. And they're still on air. And they're on air because they give the people what they want. And they're complicated stories. They're all the man, I had to have major surgery, was stuck at home in a body cast for almost a year. And I hated soap operas. But I started watching General Hospital because there was nothing else to do. And I
Well,
remember once I got better, I had to go through therapy, learn how to walk again and all this other stuff. And when I would go back to work, all of a sudden I'd go, oh, it's 2 o'clock. And I'd go call my wife. And I had to go to a phone because we didn't have cell phones. Hey, what's going on? What's happening on General Hospital? And
no,
she
no,
would
no,
tell
no.
me.
He didn't have to have physical therapy. He had to have therapy to get away from the conditioning that soap operas put
The
on you.
soap operas did.
Yes.
I wouldn't call ice baths, electrodes, learning how to bend my leg and walk again.
It was all things that get you distracted from the
Get
soap
distracted
operas.
from the soap
You were
operas.
living
Come
your
on
And
own
now.
soap
I
opera.
mean,
Yeah.
it didn't work.
that would be motivation enough for me to learn how to walk again. And I had
Right.
to learn how to walk again because like I gotta get to that damn remote.
Get this shit off the
I
TV.
gotta turn this
And
off.
we didn't have a VCR at that point. I didn't
Hmm.
get one yet. I hadn't got one yet.
No,
I
not when you had your knee like that.
no,
What happened
no.
with?
And so I was like, there was the only way you could do it was wait half a year to see if it was reran during the
Rebroadcast,
season,
yeah.
or make sure that Donna told me the complete story. And I was really into Luke and Laura, and anybody who knows who this character know what I'm talking about.
I,
Um,
And Scorpio.
And only in retrospect is his son going in the
you
age of
know,
everything that we have now.
I can't say that I haven't felt that way either, especially when I actually go visit my family north of here and my grandmother or my mother, if not both of them, are still tuned into their soap operas. And I'm like, this show is still going. And I remember they were watching one and I was like, that guy's still alive. He was on this show when I was a kid. I remember that guy, like how is he not gone yet? And they're just sitting there going, "Oh, that character has survived car crashes and
Yep.
fires and all kinds of stuff." And I'm like, "Man,
He's the
it,
moneymaker for the show, so they're injecting him with steroids and other things to keep him alive.
well, it was
it
always funny because they would kill off a guy because there was a contractual dispute. He wanted more money or because they become popular. And then all of a sudden the show ratings come down. People start going, I wanted this character back. And then they have to pay him the money they should have paid him to bring him back. And then they got to be creative. You know, I went off the bridge. I
the dream
crashed.
sequence."
I was washed out to sea. I was rescued by a boat. They took me to another country. I didn't know who I was. And all these long drawn out stories. And then I remember watching something and I remember how much I loved you and I had to come back here. Well, it's been 10 years. I'm married. I have a child. I can't be that person. Well, then I'll kill your family.
It's
Just
like, okay,
I
thanks.
just think of Dallas every
Yeah.
time there's a bad plot point. Like, oh, let's just retcon it with a dream sequence.
that's see when I saw
Do it with Star Wars. Let's do.
Aliens, when I saw Aliens 3, right? No, it was Aliens 2. No, it was
Aliens
Aliens
3.
3 when they killed friggin' Newt and
Yes.
everybody. I was so mad. And
I was too.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't really want to see it because I'd heard rumors. And two of my buddies came and they took me and my kids and just to see my reaction. My buddy Ray was like, I just need to see your reaction. I was like, why? He goes, just want to see if you react the same way as I did. And then I can't remember his name, the guy we used to go play fireworks and stuff with,
Russell.
Russell. And they're all sitting there, not with me. They're sitting where they can look at me from a distance.
With popcorn, going like this.
And man, when it happened, and I've known outbursts in the theater, F this movie, F you, and all this stuff. And, you know, I started to get up and I was like, come on, kids. And, no, I'm not finished watching this. And everybody's like, I drove you. You're stuck. You better go sit back down and watch the movie. And I spent half the movie just giving him the evil friggin' eye. And he goes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I did that to you. He goes, but I knew that's how you were going to react. I needed to see that reaction to justify how I felt inside. And I said, man, it is such a betrayal. And so
Hmm.
all that night and then over the weekend, I kept trying to write a story to erase that entire movie. And I was like, it's simple. It's a hypersleep nightmare that because she'd been in the tube for too long. Because remember, they talked about that in the book that when you're in there too long, you have nightmares
You have
and they
nightmares.
last for a long time. You can't come out of them. And I was like, yeah, just write it that way and erase it. And I was like, Cameron, come back. Please come back. Come please.
Yeah.
And it never happened. And I was like, after that, I was like, it ended it too.
That
What?
was one of
What?
the earliest examples where I made a statement with my wallet because I loved the first two films and I always will. And I remember when Kenner launched
The
the
figures.
the figures, I was eating those up. I was doing chore after chore to get, Ripley, the power loader, the bull alien, everything. And as diehard as Vince and all you guys are with your figures, like the aliens line is totally what I was into as a kid. I'd sit there with all of them on the floor and I'm sitting there watching the movies, reenacting everything. And when three hit, I was in third or fourth grade at the time, and I actually made friends with somebody I did not expect to make friends with over how much we hated what Alien 3 did to
Nice.
to the characters. And we
Nice.
started like talking about what we would have done differently and why we like, the first two films, what they should have done here, what they could have done better. And then again, we had the product placement on top of that. Like, well, maybe the games can salvage what the movie did. Nope, because the games did not follow the movie. They didn't
Mm-mm.
even get a finished copy of what the film was supposed to be, which is why Ripley survives the game, which makes no sense. Where did she get the weapons, all that? So I guess at this point now we're running into this heavy stream of both product placement, films, if not a TV show that is, trying to be different from everything else, branching off, either copying or being successful or failing. And for me, again, I guess at this point, because we're starting to get really oversaturated with a lot of this, that it just becomes easier to kind of pick and choose what we want, what we start gravitating towards.
Mhm.
And I often feel that the reason why it was simpler at that point is because we had already seen so many successful films, so many things that were done well that it's like, how can it be topped? And if you're going to make a sequel, and we're running into sequelitis here, what's at stake? Do you branch off and do a movie because your sales aren't doing so well, or do you stay away from those things because it's really taboo? Look at what happened with the Transformers and GI Joe movie, because
Mhm.
as a kid I wanted to see more of that, but I could definitely see where first they're edgy and now they're going back to playing things safe and they don't want to risk alienating their core audience and their toy buyers. So I think now we're getting into the process where either they're taking risks, or if they're gonna do it, they're gonna pay closer attention to this stuff this time around. They're gonna fine tune things.
Hmm.
Oh, excuse
Well,
me.
it's interesting because after this, like Transformers the movie, we have the real big push for Japanese animation
Yep.
in the
Hmm.
States. We didn't see a whole lot of animation from the States that were more mature adult. Because at this point in time, like from like 87 on, you had like The Brave Little Toaster,
Yes. Glad you
you
mentioned that.
had The Chipmunks Adventure, which is a great movie,
Love
Hmm.
it.
G.I. Joe the movie.
Retcon ending.
Yep.
Um, I'm skipping over some of these. The just Brave Star, The Legend, which is the conclusion to the series for Brave Star, which
Series.
is
Yeah.
really good.
We got that, but we didn't get Jason the Wheel Warriors, man.
No,
We got
don't,
Daffy
don't.
Duck's Quackbusters, which is the ghost one, the monsters and
Yeah,
stuff.
that was a really great movie.
Yeah, we enjoyed that one. Let me see. Land Before Time at this point, 88.
Hmm.
Oliver and Company,
Yeah,
which
that
for
was a
the
big one.
longest time only went in the theaters and was literally locked in their vault until like
Yes,
2000.
but
Hmm.
that was either a Pizza Inn or a Pizza Hut tie-in with
Hmm.
that.
I think McDonald's on that one.
I think it was McDonald's. It was
Yeah,
McDonald's. I remember
I
the
think I
toys.
remember getting the toys.
Pound Puppies and the Legend of Big Paul, which is the one you're
Hmm.
talking about,
Yeah,
Dad.
yeah, which was fantastic. I love the
There was
music.
a couple of the Jetsons movies.
Yeah, the Flintstones
Uh,
meet the Jetsons.
hmm Scooby Doo and the Ghoul School, Scooby Doo and the
Yes.
Rocket Werewolf, Who Framed Roger Rabbit in '88,
Hmm.
which was live action with animation.
And my
All Dogs
childhood
Go to
hero,
Heaven.
more Don Bluth. Yep.
Hmm. Little Mermaid, which is what changed the trajectory for
The
Disney.
Renaissance.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, except I think Oscar and Company was a return to that. Was their first return to
I
that
think it was the first. It was the first,
because it
but
had that musical feeling
mhm.
and it went back to like Aristocats. It went back to 101 Dalmatians. It had that more classic feel, but with a rock, with Billy
But
Joel.
I wonder because like not a lot of I mean like if you didn't see it at the time, you missed out on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas like The Little Mermaid literally just changed everything for Disney. We know that. It is
Hmm.
with their box office numbers and everything. It was the thing that like all of us were watching. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Well, because like to us, it wasn't, oh, it's a girl movie. It was all of us were watching it.
It's a Disney movie.
Hmm.
Like that had some weight to it.
Yeah.
Whereas before, again, we were looking at these slapstick, comical, kind of, silly, zany portrayals and adaptations. But now we're hitting this Disney boom where now Disney's putting on their big boy pants. They're starting to tell things a little bit edgier, a little bit darker. Characters actually emote real feelings, not
Yeah,
Hmm.
but
just
they still kept the happy ending. I mean,
true.
Mufasa died. Okay, yes, but
What? No, I'm just kidding.
Little Mermaid should have died. That's how the story worked. And
Originally.
they
Yes.
were changing them to give them happy endings instead of they removed the moral that was part of those tales.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But the last animated movie, as far as this list from '89, was Little Nemo, which is another good
Yes.
one.
Yeah, but that was Pixar. During this time, that was Pixar and had no relation to Disney.
No, it didn't. Was it Pixar at the time?
Yep.
You know which one I'm talking about, right, Dad? With the little boy who in the bed and
Oh
everything, and
no, no. Well, that was an import.
he
Okay,
goes into
wait.
Slumberland.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
I
talking
understand
about.
that. Yeah, but that was another import from Asia. That was an anime from Asia, from
Hmm.
Japan. So I don't count that because we weren't talking about anything that was imported. Remember?
I
That's why I
know.
said that.
Well, I know. But like that's it. I mean, there's it's amazing because like we haven't even gotten into like the foreign stuff or the like because Japan,
The
some of the UK
Japanimation boom.
stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, um, it's not showing me what I want. Um, it was we had it the Japanese animation and some of the Korean and some of the other stuff. It came in through TV
Hmm.
shows.
Yes,
And then the TV shows allowed the movies to be purchased and brought in and redubbed, cut or edit or whatever they needed to do to make it for an American audience. And I remember the first cut of Akira that came in, I had was in the original language, and it wasn't even subtitled. But then once it went to theaters with the one cast that we knew for so long before it went to the when it was redone, there were some changes to it. It wasn't exactly the same as the original one that came out. Um, and then there was the remaster, which had the new voices and everything else. And
Pioneer. Yeah,
yeah, that was more back to what the original was. So all of that influenced the animation and stuff that we had on television. It influenced the movies that were being made with cartoons, you
Hmm.
know.
because the first one I think we got here that was actually produced. Let me see. In Japan, there's like three of them, and I Secret Pictures, 1001 Nights of. I'm not even gonna butcher that name. Then there was Cleopatra, and then you got another one, Do It, Eurosay Phenomenon or Paranorma. I'm totally butchering that name, but like, because as far as like here, like Lupin the Third was one
Yeah.
of the first movies we actually got here besides Galaxy Express 999.
But we had it as a
That is
game before
known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but we had Lupin as a game before we actually had the cartoon here. Um, and it was a
Wasn't that
nut.
Castle Cagliostro or something
Yeah,
like that?
cat. Yeah. Yeah. And it's where you in the car, remember, and you got to shoot, and it was like Dragon's Lair and all those other games where it was more of a
Yeah.
light sensor that would tell you which direction to
And
go
that's
and
the
all
one
that
that
other
got
stuff.
released on the Sega CD later
Hmm.
on.
And I used to play that at a stop and go all the time.
And then at the arcade there in Alameda.
It was originally Gold Mine and it became Tilt. And they moved. Gold Mine went down and then Tilt opened up across from the food court in that corner. I liked Gold Mine. That was my favorite place to go.
Yeah, that's where you played and beat Dragon's Lair.
The first time, but the second time, oh, I came close there. But then we were at US Golf and Games or whatever that place was, and they had the arcades up front and they had like pool and all this other stuff. It was a big area. That's where I beat it. And I remember your brother like hushing people and try, leave me alone, y'all gotta step back. And they were like, what's going on? And that it and I did it with just a few quarters. I
Hmm.
remember because Gold Mine they had the sensor on it was so messed up and it was just a money eater, you know.
Yeah,
And then they came out with Thayer's Quest and that was $1 on a timer. You put in the dollar. It wasn't if you died 3 times, then you couldn't restart. After your time was up, you had to stick another dollar in really quickly, or that um,
Orb's gone.
it was gone, or you had to restart. And that was a Don Bluth. Space Ace, Dragon
Hmm.
Slayer, and Thayer's Quest were all Laserdisc Don Bluth animated.
Yep.
Well,
So
anything
there's
else?
really, I was going to say, so there's really an, a delineation here. We've got the older cartoons, which were for kids, and then it became advertisements for, or, just distractions. Parents wanted them just to distract the kids.
Yeah.
And then they became a venue for real storytelling. And that
Hmm.
is got to be due to other international influences because of the way they handled it. And
Right.
our people here realized that and then started following that. Some of them dragging, kicking and dragging, but then that dominated everything.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, there was uh Battle of the Planets, there was
Speed Racer, Transor
well, yeah,
Z,
well, Speed Racer was one of the first that got here. Then there's Transit D. There was
Astro Boy,
Astro Boy.
and then there was
Eight Man.
what was the one that Transrz is just one you said, but then there was the one that looked like a bullet and he had like lightning thing on top of his head and he was all gray and I can't remember what the
Oh, Gigantor.
Yeah.
Gigantor. Um
Well, there was Go Shogun too, which I believe was
Hmm.
part of what they started the whole Shogun Warriors off of.
and
When
then
it,
we had like what do you call it? Johnny Quest. Hanna-Barbera was doing some really good guns, real bullets, people getting killed, monsters and everything. And
Yeah.
then parents came down hard on that stuff. And so they were even editing down those shows, um, and we'd lose whole seasons. Like there was some parts of Astro Boy that we never even got here. Um, and then we got to that 70s and 80 period where what I was talking about, where we had Star Blazers, which you talked about, which is about the Yamato.
mhm.
Um, we had um, I thought there was
Full
the
attack.
well, yeah, Robotech, and there was another one. And then we had Voltron, and we had some other ones
Hmm.
later on. But there was one more in that period, which was all that space opera stuff. Because Star
Oh,
Blazer,
uh, uh, it was the pirate one with the X that Carolee
Captain
loved.
Harlock. That's
That's
yeah, yeah, and space. Oh, is that
Battleship Yamato, and
Hmm.
well, Yamato wasn't part of that, but that was
no,
Harlock
but I mean
and
that in
yeah,
that genre of
Galaxy 999 or whatever
Galaxy
it
Express
was.
999.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
And that was what came on in the afternoons. And kids raced home to see, and then they started moving them over to Saturday morning, and then, um, and then we started getting movies like that.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I guess we're at a good transition point for the next show because we're going to be moving into the 90s, right?
90s and 2000s, the
I
aughts.
know there's tons of stuff we've missed. I know there's so much anime we've missed.
I
We
mean,
just didn't have a complete list.
no, and then that's the sad thing is like there isn't like a good archive of this stuff with what you need unless you break it down not by decade but actually by year
Or by
and
director. Because
right, yeah.
we talked a lot about the same directors for quite a few of these
yeah,
Hmm.
timelines and such. And again, we're naming names of people who were trying to push the envelope and
Envelope.
make it more than just cheap entertainment to have your kids sit down and watch. Like, no, they're going to teach us some things about real life in these films.
Because like Pink Floyd had animated stuff in it, and then
Off the
the
wall.
movie,
the
and
wall.
it
Yeah,
Mhm.
the wall, and then you had
Yellow
the
Submarine.
Yellow
Oh yeah,
Submarine.
Yellow Submarine, which only had the Beatles in for the music and then the live action sequence at the end.
yeah.
We
They didn't
had
want anything to do with it.
Hmm.
when did Xanadu?
When the wind blows that we talked about like before, but we didn't talk about in this episode about the family, the grandparents that live in a
Oh
farm near with the
yeah,
nuke.
Nuke. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
had a lot of British stuff that came in that was really dark. I mean, a lot of that stuff because you know,
And some of those were aired on Nickelodeon at the time. Like there's the one with the guy that's the Revolutionary War soldier that is on his deathbed near with a bunch of other people, and the devil comes and grants him that You can reach in your pocket and have any amount of money. You can just keep
Yeah.
pulling it out, but you have to spend it. But you can't tell anybody. You can't bathe and or do anything. You have to wear this robe, and that was a really good one. But that was, I think, UK, but it was released here through
Well,
Nickelodeon.
and there was the soldier, the soup, the rock soup cartoon. They were those were little mini shorts. They were
Hmm.
shorts. Um,
There's the gnome.
oh wow, what was that was a cartoon that was really great.
Well, then there's David the gnome. That was a
David
David
cartoon.
the
the Gnome.
Gnome.
Yeah,
But
I
there was
love
the
that.
But the movie The Gnome was about two gnomes that were trying to get to their daughter's wedding that were having to deal with a troll.
Hmm.
There was one more that I was thinking of in that same vein of the British stuff, but I can't think of it now. Um,
But there's a lot that we probably missed. But I mean, this is a good enough for our audience to listen to, and hopefully they'll come back for part two when we talk about 90s and
we can
2000. And we can go,
we can add some names and directors and stuff like that before you post, right? To give them more
Hmm.
information. Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of not just, we focused on American directors, but a lot of the influences did come from like the UK and other countries.
Japan,
So yeah, even before we
France.
had the anime boom, I mean, the list is extensive of what could be qualified as influential or uh adult animated film. There's so many titles that could be just grouped into that. I think it really just comes down to what you're looking for as a viewer and what you're drawn to. Is it the storytelling? Is it the animation style? We talked about how directors use rotoscoping and um, some of these were just so different for their time, but that's what made them stand out in a good way.
Hmm.
Um, we're I think we're still selective as a normal movie going audience, but I think because things now are playing too much on the safe side that we're just not seeing we're not seeing as much creativity and we're not seeing as much product where they're trying to go against the grain. They're trying to challenge your way of thinking. It's less philosophical and more loud noises and flashy gimmicks rather than the art of storytelling. And even my son will say that. Like there's just too much going on that I don't even know what I'm paying attention to. And I said, you see, that's part of the problem. Nobody is focusing on telling a good story anymore. But also, it is the TikTok generation. Our attention spans, for the most part, if they don't
Yeah,
hook you in that first minute,
gold. It's a goldfish thing.
And we're
Yeah.
being conditioned to be like that way. All of
Well,
us are.
some of the sad part is that during my generation, we had a Saturday morning Classic Tales, which was the some of the books from the Classic Tales comics and books. They did Reuben the Conqueror. They did wasn't 20,000 Leagues, but it was the other one with the same character. Reuben creates a plane, a submarine, and something a tank. The same vehicle it transformed and it could go in water and it was terrorizing London. There were Island of Dr. Moreau. These were hour-long animated short movies, and they called them movies, but they were, an hour long, which introduced kids to literature.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then those were replaced with this was some kind of it was educational something, but it was the same thing. They just lost, I guess, the rights to Classic Tales title, and you put another one in, and the movies expanded to like an hour-long cartoon. Um,
Hmm.
and we didn't recover any of those in this. And those uh were after all the kind of fun cartoons and everything.
Yeah, Peter the
And
Rabbit wasn't listed on this at all. I mean, there's quite a
they
few of those old fairy
they
tale cartoons that weren't even on here.
the younger kids would go off and be distracted, and the slightly older kids who were learning more and into it stayed and watched these more story, these greater stories.
Hmm.
Um, and we need to do something. We need to bring that back to because people don't read like they used to, and what they read is just genre garbage
Or regurgitated.
or regurg, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and the way into that for a lot of kids were these animated movies. And then you go, oh, that was a book. You know, hey, I'm going to read the book. They had one of them was At the Earth's Core, which was one of my favorite Burns book. No, yeah. One
Journey to
was that
Center,
there
yeah.
were, well, there's Journey to the Center, there's and At the Earth's Core. At the Earth's Core, I think is Vern's. No, is Howard's, and Vern's is the other one.
Right.
Um,
And then
and I remember they did the War of the Worlds, man, on their animated. It was just fantastic, and I was just so into that. They did an animated cartoon for the Time Machine, you know,
Hmm.
and it was usually about the end of that was when my mom and dad would go out, out, get out of the house.
Get out.
But, and then
get
you've had
out.
that in your mind, and you go off and you play that adventure out,
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
I miss just any media that challenges you to think. I really do, because everything is just so explained to you. Like it's not taught, it's explained flat
Mhm.
out, right out the door, tells you what's going on. And that's what I miss about a lot of modern TV and movies. I look back on all the cartoon films I grew up watching and remembering what I learned from them, and I don't see that with a lot of today's programming. I can't say I walked away learning something
Right.
or gaining a new insight to anything. And I tend to gravitate towards everything older because of that. I have actually sat down with my son and watched Twilight Zone with him, a couple of episodes. And at the end of the episode, we sit there and we say, what'd you think? What did you like? What didn't you like? What did you gain from that? If this were to happen, what would you feel? What would you think? And kind of try to engage his creativity and also his problem solving ability. Um, he took to the movie Logan's Run really well. And I didn't expect him to even sit through that movie, let alone actually understand the concept and what it means to, not want to be in this utopian society because it's only good for a short time anyway.
And
And
you'd not like it if it was the one from the book.
yeah, I told him that.
17 years old is
I told him that.
Really young.
really young. Yeah.
He's like, they only live to 30 in the movie. I said, yeah, even younger in the book. And he just gasped. He's like, what? So it's kind of one of those things where they used to do that with me, where I'd sit there and watch something and say, oh, by the way, it's based off of a book, and it would intrigue me enough to want to pick it up.
So, to wrap up the episode, there's been some good animation here that if you've never watched, you need to check out. Some spectacular stories, things that'll captivate your imagination, that'll keep you wondering of what if. Um,
Yes.
a lot of these have influenced not only my father's childhood and his friends, but my childhood and my friends. And I've been slowly introducing this stuff to my son. So it's generational.
Yes.
And give some of these titles a watch if you haven't. Or if you've watched any of them, let us know down below. Like, let us know a list of your favorite North American. And when I mean by North American, Canadian, American, Mexican, from Mexico, all that stuff. You know, even like even if you want to dive into Japanese, Eastern, Western, all that stuff, let us know because we'd love to read it. And guys, thank you for being on.
As usual.
And
Loved it.
we'll be back probably with another episode. I don't know if the sequel to this one will follow next, just because of how we're recording episodes. But be on the lookout for part 2, where we do talk about 90s
In 2000s.
in the 2000 animation.
The anime booms.
Peace out.
Good night, everybody.
Deuces.